Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. A couple of weeks ago, I built this BF 109E kit from Tamiya for the 48 and 48 challenge. My first 1/48 scale model in a very long time. Building the kit was a fantastic experience, but I ran into issues with the painting. So this is where we finished Saturday morning. Everything ready for primer, which I did with Vallejo's light gray surface primer. Once the primer was dry, I oversprayed the wings, top and bottom, the back fuselage, and the horizontal stabilizers in white. While that paint cured, I used this painting guide I found on the internet from Top DR Wings. The plans looked detailed enough, but my first clue should have been that the scale measurements were in millimeters, and the author's use of commas for decimal points. Anyhow, I trudged along and imported the images and the stripe dimensions into Cricut's cutting program and set about cutting them from Tamiya tape. The frustration I had with these masks was well documented in this live stream link. What I ended up doing was cutting off about 1/8 of an inch from each of the Swiss crosses, except for the tail crosses. Those were small enough that I just used them as is, and they didn't look out of place, although they could have used a little trimming. Same with the rear horizontal stabilizer tips. I just lined up the semicircular cutouts as best I could so that they matched top, bottom, and side to side. For the striping, I just went back to traditional methods. I cut very thin strips of Tamiya tape and established edges where I wanted the white stripes to end, and then came back in and filled the gap with larger sections of tape. I tried to use the visual reference as a guide, and in retrospect, if I do it again, I would use panel lines as a guide. It's a much better indicator. It's probably what the Swiss actually did. I should also mention that I did this Sunday morning. That way, all of the white paint had plenty of time to dry and cure so that when I pulled this tape up, it wouldn't pull the white tape up with it. So with all the masking completed, it was just time to shoot red over all the white. I like to lightly airbrush each edge and let that set for about 5 minutes. And then I come back and fill in the middle. I try not to flood it because I don't want it to get under the tape. Once that complete coverage was done, I let that sit for about 5 minutes, just enough so it wasn't tacky. It was kind of just flashed off, and I removed the masking. I was fairly happy with how the masking worked. There was some bleed, but nothing it couldn't touch up or just leave as historical inaccuracies. You may have also noticed on the sides of the fuselage, there's a rectangle on both sides that cuts through both the red and white bands. This is where the plane's ID number is going. Once again, I returned to the Cricut machine and its application, and with some simple modifications to standard lettering, I was able to craft an adequate ID number. And this time, I just cut all that lettering from standard non-permanent vinyl. And then with the aid of transfer tape, I placed those letters and numbers and dashes onto the white rectangle and started the masking for the blue belly color, which I did not film. Then I remasked all of the red and white stripes down to their final sizes, leaving that little rectangle open because that's going to be the plane's original camouflage color. So then I just came back with an overall RLM 71 base coat, which I let cure for, an hour or two. Again, using that same feathering on the edge to get a nice clean edge. Since the plane would have been provided with an early war splinter pattern, and then most of it was overpainted by the Swiss, instead of taping, I just came back with some bits of index card to get that hard edge that would have been from the RLM 70. After giving that another hour or so to completely dry, I came back for the final reveal. I think the contrasting patterns came out rather well. I was particularly pleased with the identification number box and the area around it. And after it was fully cured, came back with some RLM 66 to paint all the exposed control surfaces and the wheel wells. I also took this time to put the landing gear in place, the rear wheel in place, the front nose, which was previously painted white, the propeller, and the spinner, as well as that completely red tail with the white cross. For the canopy, I did go back in and touch up the leakage under the masking tape. I need to do more practice with this. I never get clean lines on a canopy mask, and it's even more evident at this scale, but I am very happy with what I achieved. One little thing you need to look out for is an oddity in the instructions versus reality is that Tamiya calls for removing the canopy tabs if you're going to display the canopy open. I think this is backwards, as the tabs will not allow the canopy to sit on the frame closed if you don't cut them off. And if you want to display it open, the tabs fit into these nice little slots that hold it open and give you a bigger purchase point to glue the canopy in that position. So I ended up having to cut the tabs off. I left them on per the instructions, and now I needed to come back and touch that up. All the clear parts were then attached with some varnish. This is nice because it dries clear and it doesn't fog up the clear parts. All that was left was to add the radio wires, which I used some cut down sections of superfine copper wire that I got from an old electrical project of multi-strand wire, and of course superglued them in place. After that was set, I just painted over them to match the RLM 70 mask color. Well, I hope you enjoyed this short video on how I finished my challenge build. And since the challenge ended, I have built up the diorama base and a field battery generator, plus 2 ground cruisemen to complete the diorama. Links to those videos are in the description below. And here we have the completed diorama. I really enjoyed building this model in 1/48 scale. And I think I have like 3 1/72 scale planes left in the stash. 2 are going in the one diorama. One is just a plane that I really want to build, another 109, surprise, surprise. But I think the next few purchases I actually make will be in that larger scale, that 1/48. It was really fun to work on a bigger, chunkier model and have more details to paint. Anyway, I hope you had as much fun following this challenge as I did doing it. And as always, happy modeling.